former head coach of Fordham, and he was an assistant at Jay Wright's staff at Hofstra University from 1994 to 2001. And that's the coach, Tom Pecora. Coach, thanks for a few minutes, and how are you?
Always a pleasure, guys. Good to hear your voices. We're doing great up here.
Well, thank you for coming on today. And like I was just saying a few moments ago, you were an assistant when Jay Wright was coaching at Hofstra. Just take us back to those Hofstra days and what you learned from Coach Jay Wright.
Well, we had a lot of fun, actually. It was a great learning experience for both of us. Jay and I had been assistants for Coach Massimino at UNLV. And then I left for a year and went to Loyola Marymount to work with John Olive, another former Villanova assistant who had become the head coach out there in California. So Jay and I came back to Hofstra together. I had an opportunity to be his top assistant for 7 years, and then I went on to be the head coach there for 9. But when we got there were 305 Division I teams, I believe, and I think we were like 297 in the RPI. So truly rock bottom, and he obviously having been at Villanova prior to that and then UNLV, and us being together in Vegas. One of the great stories was our first game at Hofstra. Prior to the new arena being built there, we were playing in the old PFC, the Physical Fitness Center. And before the game, he looked at me and I said, 74. And he said, what? And I said, 74. And he said, what's that? I said, that's how many people are watching this game. 74 people here. So compared to playing in front of 20,000 at Thomas and Mack Center in Vegas, and obviously the great crowds that were at the Nova games prior to that. So it truly was a rebuilding process, but we had a lot of fun doing it. It was a great opportunity for him to cut his teeth as the head coach. And, we learned a lot. We learned by making mistakes. We used to kid around and say if it didn't work out, we'd open a bait and tackle shop down the shore. And, but I knew that he was going to be a star. I mean, he had tremendous people skills. He has great intellect. He has a very fertile basketball mind. To this day, he's not afraid to be creative and try something that hasn't been done, and especially on the offensive end. So those were interesting years. Eventually, we did get some players. In the beginning, we wanted to have Midnight Madness, and he said, well, we can do a dunk contest, and we can do this. And I said, well, we only have one guy in the team that can dunk, Jay. And I said, I guess he's the winner. We can't have a dunk contest. So it all took a few years, but we were able to get some real good players there, and Speedy Claxton, being the lead player that came in for us and gave us instant credibility, got us to a couple NCAA tournaments, and the rest is history.
And Jay's been a guy that has been to a Final Four before as a head coach, as he was there in 2009 after Reynolds hit that shot up against Pitt. But the last few years, he's gotten a lot of criticism just because he had teams that people thought were going to go a lot farther, and they just ended up not doing so. He seemed very loose, though, in this tournament so far, and it seems like his team is just enjoying the way that they're playing right now. And, heck, this is a tough group not to really like, Coach, just because they play with so much toughness and so much grit.
Well, I said last night, I was on one of the shows up here with Bruce Beck last night talking about the Final Four, and I said from the start, when I went and watched them work out over the summer and then early in the fall, I thought they were one of the best teams I had ever seen, if not the best, at doing all the little things. They pay great attention to detail. And then effort plays as well. They're always the first to the floor on a loose ball. They're willing to give their body up throughout the course of the game to take charges and protect the basket. They're an incredible screening team. They do a very good job putting bodies on bodies. So those little things add up and become big things. And they enjoy their company. They enjoy each other's company, which is very hard to do with any team. But they truly are playing for each other. And, we had an expression we used to use for years and years, and Jay would always say to the team in Hofstra, get out of yourself and get into this team. We used to say that actors play to the crowd, players play for their teammates and their coaches. And these are things that he truly believes in, and he's got a group of guys that are a special group. And you know what? The sad and crazy thing is that they had lost their second game in this tournament, and they hadn't gotten through the weekend. They would still be a special group of guys, but this label or this flag can be thrown on you because the NCAA tournament has become such an albatross for some teams and some people. Jay did a great job of letting them know the whole season was important. That first weekend wasn't the whole season. It was what they accomplished all year. The total number of wins the senior class has accumulated over 4 years. These were all very, very important things to him and to the team, and I think that allowed them to handle the first weekend the right way.
And also, it can't hurt the way that backcourt's been playing. The first 3 games, they just shot the lights out of the gym. But then really that last game, when they played Kansas, they found a way to win when they didn't play their best. And Oshefu did give them some really solid minutes for the first, 35 minutes of the game.
He really has developed. Oshefu has really gotten better every time he stepped on the floor. He was a little dinged up there with a back and an ankle a few weeks back, but he's fought through that. And the training staff's done a great job getting him healthy. But when they won ugly the other night, as they said, I tell people all the time, people look at Jay, and he looks like a movie star, and he's earning a $5,000 suite, and they don't think they think he could be soft, and he's the furthest thing from it. When he's teaching his defense, they played like a bunch of pit bulls the other night. They totally stifled Ellis in the post, and that frustrated him, and it frustrated Kansas. It put a lot more pressure on those guys to make those perimeter jumpers. And, when you're not playing inside out and you're not having a little bit of success around the basket, the hoop gets a little bit smaller and there's a little more pressure on you to knock down those jumpers. I thought the defensive effort was incredible against Kansas. And I thought at the end of the game, it was so perfect that it ends with Archie knocking a ball loose. And then, not Reynolds, but who jumped on the loose ball? But it was a loose ball play to end the game. And that's what they're all about. I mean, they're about making those effort plays. They're about outworking their opponent. And that's why they've been able to have the success that they've had up to this point. Bridges jumped on that loose ball.
We're talking to a former assistant under Jay Wright at Hofstra University, also former head coach at Hofstra University, and that's Tom Pecora. And Tom, when you just look at this Villanova team, round after round, we do mention that they shoot the lights out, but you also mention the depth in guys like Oshefu. We can look at guys like Jenkins even, who add to this Villanova team. Now the fact that they've punched their ticket to Houston, how important is it, or how much do you look at the depth on this team opposed to the coaching and putting these guys in the right spot? Which one is it more so for the reason that they're in Houston?
Well, it's a little bit of both. I mean, when you're making a great meal, it's all about the recipe, and the recipe is to have a coach who's comfortable making changes because his team can adjust and do the things they need to do. It's about having players that understand their roles. They have defined roles, and they understand them totally. And they've done a tremendous job with that. Rarely do you see one of the Villanova kids try to make a play that they're not capable of. If it does happen, it might be very late in the shot clock where they're forced to try to do something that's out of their comfort zone. But that's what makes this such a powerful group of players, and that's why they've had the success that they've had, because they just understand what their team dynamic is. They understand what their team personality is, and they understand how to go about their business on every possession. It's always next play with them. You don't see them get frustrated. You don't see them lose their composure. They have an air about them, and that starts at the top.
The 08-09 Villanova Wildcats team made it to the Final Four, and that's the last time Villanova was in the Final Four. Tell the listener why maybe this year's team is a little bit different.
Well, I think they're different because they're not as dependent on one or two players to score. One night Jenkins will have a big night. The next night Hart can have a big night, or Arcidiacono can shoot the heck out of it for you. The young players continue to develop and have bigger nights and put things up. Brunson, even as a freshman, has dominated stretches of games. So I think that when you look at the best teams, it's a brush fire. You put out one and it starts up somewhere else because they have the ability to hurt you in so many ways. So I think their great balance is something that can really be special to this Villanova team. And it can push them right into the championship game, and you never know. Once you're in that game, you have the opportunity to go win a national championship, and that would be special.
Do you think the Seton Hall loss in the Big East Championship was actually good for this Villanova team? Maybe it humbled them a bit and got them ready for the tournament?
Well, I think in hindsight, it did. I was able to go to that game at the Garden, and, they didn't play very well, and kudos to Seton Hall because they played tremendously. Whitehead had a huge game, and then, they come out maybe feeling a little more too confident. Who knows? And then, they lose their first game in the tournament, but Villanova gets refocused, and they go out. But, one of the things I look at so much, guys, is body language. And Villanova loses that game, nobody's head's down. They're not walking off the court. They're upset they lost, but they almost have an edge to them, and they understand the big picture, and they understand the best way to fix a loss like that. And they've only had 5 losses all season. The best way to fix it is to take it out on your next opponent, and they've been able to do that on their next 4 opponents up to this point.
One guy that has incredible body language right now, and that, of course, is going to be the guy on the opposition, and Buddy Hield. He's just putting on a show for everyone across the nation. I saw Kobe Bryant was out there watching that game as Buddy Hield just went off the other night. I know you can't stop him probably, but give us some keys how Jay Wright could try to frustrate him and contain him in this Final Four game.
Well, I think when you play against any great scorer, and Buddy Hield is just so much fun to watch, not to coach against, but to watch. You do multiple defenses, okay? So you're going to defend him in different ways. You're going to defend him with different players. So at times they may play a little bit smaller and have a player like Brunson get up and into him just for a possession or two to crowd him and make him put the ball on the floor. I think Jason Hart will be a key in defending him. And then they'll go long and they'll put bridges on him at different times. So as an offensive player, when you're defended by different defenders, and they're defending you in different ways, and then you're looking at some man-to-man and some zone, there might be possessions where they face guard him once he gives the ball up and make it more difficult for them to get the ball back in his hands late in the clock. So all of those types of things, what you want to do with great offensive players is not allow them to stay and get into a rhythm and then stay in that rhythm. And the way to do that is by throwing multiple defenses at him, which we all learned from Coach Massimino. That was his bread and butter. And then multiple defenders at him. So he's looking at different body types, and he's being defended by players that have different defensive strengths. So I expected to see a lot of that.
This tournament has, I think, been one of the better ones that we've ever seen. Just look at that opening weekend. That was probably the 4 best days I've ever seen of college basketball. And really, in years past, we used to see the one-and-dones dominate the last few years. But this year, it's back to just the seniors dominating the big dance. You take a look at Villanova. We mentioned Archie Diacono, Oklahoma with Buddy Hield. And then UNC, they have a few seniors as well. It has to be nice for you as a coach to see some of these seniors back dominating the big dance, right?
Well, it's tremendous. And I think it sends a strong message, When you look at a player like Providence's Chris Dunn, who had an opportunity last year to go, and he was being told he was going to be a pick between like 15 or 18, and he decides to stay. And just the way he develops, not only as a player, but as a man spending another year in college. And, now he's probably pushed himself up to be a top 10 pick. So I think the more players that make that decision and they do that, I think that's better for them personally, but it's also better for college basketball because you really are at times limited as a coach with what you can do offensively and defensively when you have a number of young freshmen on the floor or even sophomores. But as they become juniors and seniors and they get more familiar with your system and the way you want to go about preparing for games, all of those little things that veterans do. And, we used to say we had rookies and those were our freshmen and everybody else was a veteran. And we used to talk to the veterans all the time about teaching the rookies, all the little things, about how to prepare for games, about road trips, about individual workouts, about making sure you're getting your rest and you're taking care of your body in the training room. All of those little things. And the quicker young teams get old, the better they become. But when you have as many veteran players on the floor as so many of these teams do now, it's just better basketball.
Wrapping up with Tom Pecora, who joins us right now. Let's touch on Syracuse real quickly. I don't know how they went on this run. Their zone has been really fun to watch, and they're now a 10 seed going to the Final Four in a year when many people thought they shouldn't be in the tournament. What has impressed you the most about this Syracuse team as they've gone on a remarkable run?
Well, I think one of the things was you talk about playing with an edge. I think they definitely had an edge coming in here, a chip on their shoulder, so to speak, where they were going to go out and prove a lot of people wrong. Incredible comeback yesterday. I mean, everyone obviously talks about the 2-3 zone, and no one plays it better. Syracuse really replaced Temple in that sense. So many years Coach Chaney had the best 2-3 zone in college basketball, the matchup, and now Syracuse does it, and they throw multiple looks at you out of that 2-3. They recruit to it with great size and length. But then they go and they extend the floor, and they press for about 2.5 minutes, and it changes the entire game. It really rattles Virginia. And on a couple of those 2-on-1 and 3-on-2 breaks, Virginia has turnovers or bad shots. considered the equivalent of a turnover. It speeds up the pace of the game. I'm sure in hindsight, looking at that tape, when Virginia does, when Coach Bender looks at it, he's going to say, if we had pulled it out one or two times, it might have changed the entire end of that game. But the pace of the game got quick, and then they were able to settle back into it, and then just some big, big shots. Richardson was just off the charts. He scored inside. He scored out, contested jumpers. He had step back threes. So really had an opportunity to show his wares and his skill set. So I think that was a really impressive win. And the other thing is, for some reason, people still underestimate Jim Boeheim as a coach. And it's ridiculous. A Hall of Fame coach, and his poise and his demeanor really rub off on his team, and they don't seem to lose their composure very much. So I think it's just a tremendous story, and it's just kind of kooky that here we are thinking of Syracuse as being an underdog. But they are as a 10 seed, and they've just had a wonderful run here.
Wouldn't that be something, because I'm a New Yorker, wouldn't it be something if we get an old Big East final, seeing Syracuse and Nova go up against it?
Yeah, wouldn't that be great? You can't get enough of the old Big East. I love the new Big East, but it's just different. I grew up going to those games in the 80s when Villanova would come up, and St. John's and Georgetown, and all of those Big East teams were just it just made the place electric. So that would be awesome.
Last one with Tom Pecora, who joins us right now. I got to know Rollie Massimino over the years pretty well. He was on our show a few weeks ago. My dad actually, back in the day, when he was at Villanova, produced his radio show on what I believe was WCAU at the time. Give me your best Rollie Massimino story.
Well, to this day, when I went out, I had worked at Camp J. Wright, and I worked at Long Island Lutheran basketball camp for Bob McPhillips, the head coach of Davidson. Bob gave me my first coaching job, and Jay and I were counselors there and became friends. And then I started working down at Villanova camp when Jay went there, I believe in 86 or 87 after the national championship. And when Coach Massimino called me to come interview to go work out at UNLV, I was a junior college head coach, and I was teaching school here on Long Island. And he brought me out to the interview, and we went out to dinner. And earlier that day, we went to a minor league baseball game because the Dodger minor league team was playing, and the Dodger minor league team had a kid named Piazza catching for them in AAA baseball. So I got to meet Mike Piazza when he was in the minors, and Coach Bass was buddies with his dad. And then we went to dinner, and to this day, he says the only reason he gave me the job was because I ordered the same meal as he did, but I ordered it first. Chicken brajol and shrimp at a little Italian restaurant in Vegas. He didn't let me come back home. He said, just unpack and send us some clothes. We'll get home in a few weeks. We got work to do. And he's been like a second father to me since. I still speak with him a couple times a week, and have the opportunity to sit with him on Saturday and watch this game. So nobody better. Nobody had a greater influence on my life than Coach Massimino.
And it's unbelievable how he's still coaching at Kaiser. But Coach Tom Pecora, we do appreciate a few minutes today. Thanks so much.
Always a pleasure, guys. Enjoy the games.